everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Andrea Klim from Turn to the Stars, and today is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021, and I'm going to be doing the forecast, forecast for the next week ahead, and that will be starting at sunrise every morning, and that will include the overall influences that are present as the day unfolds and the emotions that are attached to that and any major planetary influences that we're currently experiencing that day. And I will do my best to bring in some personal zodiac sign references as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started, but I want to just kind of touch upon where we're at astrologically with the full moon, just coming off the full moon that was at its peak on Sunday Eastern time. And that was around 2 o'clock this past Sunday. And that full moon was in Libra, so it was illuminating relationships, justice and fairness, and what's fair and right, and that we all are in this place where we're looking at equality. And so it's very important. I'm sure that everyone that's watching and everybody on earth is experiencing some type of looking for some type of peace and harmony in relationships in life. And you know, there's going to be different references depending on who you are, when you were born, and what your birth chart looks like. But today I'm going to do the universal forecast. And so talking about that full moon, you know, there's been a lot of things that have been brought to light, truths around there where there's injustice in relationships. And what that looks like for you personally has been highlighted. And so there's peaked emotions which we're all feeling as we move forward with this energy. And so we're currently in a place where, you know, we're trying to figure out how to maneuver these waters. And so with that in mind, I want to just touch on something first before I get into the forecast, and that is some news at Turn to the Stars. I have a language of astrology class, which is a class that starts on Monday, April 12th, and it starts at 9:30 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. and that's an 8-week series of classes which are 2 hours long, and they're taught on Zoom. And you would receive a copy of my book, which is 8 chapters. It includes 22 years of my work of writing this book, and it has been very successful in teaching the person who's the beginner as well as the person who's a little bit versed in astrology but has not been able to put it all together. So this includes my own formulas and my own techniques that I have used throughout my career as an astrologer. And so one thing I want to say is that when you study astrology, the planets, you know, they were created by our creator. And at the time of creation, the planets were a part of God's creation. And I call it God, but you may want to call it universal creator, whatever it is that you believe. But as you all know, we all wake up with the sun every day. We know that the planets are out there in our solar system, and they do influence us. And, you know, one of my very first teacher was Isabel M. Hickey, and she was a spiritual astrologer. So my education began with Isabel Hickey, and she referenced the planets as angels, as God's helpers. And so I have that sort of foundation, and so I built upon that in my career. And so I just wanted to touch on that and just give you a little description that these classes are designed to provide you with the greatest amount of knowledge in the shortest amount of time, and for you to gain clarity with regard to the astrological influences that affect and influence us every single day in our lives, particularly the moon, because it is the closest body of energy to us, and it moves the fastest around us. It transits around us the fastest. And so the language of astrology classes do provide a foundation to understand the basic knowledge for astrological interpretation. And upon completion of these classes, you'll have a greater understanding of the astrological influences in your own birth chart, and you can also look at those for your friends, your family. You know, this could be a hobby, or just, you might be interested in starting to be educated so that you can do this and help others along your way in your life's path. And that was pretty much the reason I started back in 1998. So you're going to have a wonderful, firm, solid foundation at the completion of these classes. And so class 1 includes a study of the planets, retrogrades, part of fortune, and Chiron. And class 2 is going to provide you with knowledge of the zodiac signs, the opposite signs. Interpretation begins on class 2. Class 3 includes the houses, meaning the areas of your life that are being influenced. And I have caterpillars crawling on me, so they're harmless. And you're going to be studying in class 3 the hemispheres, the angular houses, the succedent houses, the cadent houses. And we're going to learn how to do a balance of the hemispheres. And then there's further interpretation that is included there. And then class 4 is the house cusps, the nodes, the elements, the triplicities, and the quadruplicities. And then class 5 covers the critical degrees, table of dignities, orbs of higher power, the decadence, elevation, and mutual reception. Class 6 covers the moon cycles, the empty houses, aspects, T-squares, stellium, and orbs. And class 7 covers physical ailments related to what's in your birth chart and where these things may stem from. I'm not sure if you know this, but for every physical ailment, there's an outer experience that has caused those influences and experiences. So our body is the end conduit of which we store these experiences. And if we don't deal with them or find peace with them, they tend to manifest in our bodies, in our outward experiences, in our inward experiences. So again, class 6 covers the moon cycles, the empty house, the aspects, meaning how the planets are communicating. We talk about T-squares, stelliums, and orbs of applying and separating. Class 7, physical ailments, age of the soul, applying and separating aspects, and also my own personal formula that I actually channeled in my beginning studies of astrology. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and know how to do something, and I'd run down to my office and write it down. And so this is a formula for successful astrology interpretation. And class 8 is A to Z, dissecting a birth chart from A to Z. So, as I said, this is all taught on Zoom. You receive a copy of my book, The Language of Astrology, on PDF. You receive a recorded copy of each of the classes that you are a part of, and even if you're not part of, and it's recorded. But I do recommend that you attend, because if you have questions, that's the place to ask those questions. So I would really love to see anyone, and this is great for young adults, 16 and up. My daughter is 23 and she started studying at age 16, and she's a budding little astrologer. So I would love to see you in the classes. If you're interested in registering, you can go to my website, turntothestars.com, and click on. So anyway, if you're interested in registering for the class, you can go to turntothestars.com and click on astrology classes, and there's a place there that you can register. So I appreciate every one of you and your continued support. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with talking about the moon phase that we're currently in. We're just coming off the full moon, and that was in Libra, as I said earlier on Sunday. And so we are currently in what we call the a phase of waning, a waning moon, which meaning every day that moon is decreasing in light. And so we're just coming, like I said, off the full moon. So this is the disseminating phase, which means that we are in a phase where we're learning and we're reaping and we're sharing our wisdom and the abundance of that wisdom, which is in effect about relationships and relating and doing that in a way where we ultimately find peace and justice and fairness in our lives. And so between now and next Tuesday, we're going to be just past the last quarter moon, which is a phase where, things are very, very, basically that phase of the moons that we're in is called a crisis of consciousness and reorientation. So, and so we're in the completion of this new moon phase that started back with a new moon in Pisces back on March 13th. And so this is a time for completing things, for finishing things. It's the time where we complete whatever it is that has come to our awareness through this moon phase. And so the new moon is going to be Sunday, April 11th at 11:40 p.m. And so I'll be talking more about that in next week's forecast. And I would love to hear from all of you about your experiences. I started a couple months ago to do a horoscope for each sign on the new moon and on the full moon. And so, and I heard from some people that they really liked it. I had some really positive feedback. But I'd love to hear from everyone if that was something that you found helpful. And if you did, please email me or text me. My number is 603-490-6253, or you can even go on my website, Turn to the Stars, and fill out the form on the front page with any comments. And so I am going to be putting together packages that include my classes, my workshops, that include astrology reports on, for relationships, and compatibility that is comprehensively outlined in those reports. So I'd love to hear from you. Your comments and your opinions matter a lot to me. So please let me know. And my email is also Andrea@turntothestars.com. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started now with the forecast for every single day for the next 7 days, starting at sunrise every morning. And so starting out with today, we do have the moon in Scorpio today. So Scorpio, there's this outward influence which is extremely intense and sensitive and emotional. And you can always feel the undercurrents with Scorpio energy, and it's currently in a square to Saturn. So we're in a phase emotionally where we're realizing, because the moon is squaring Saturn, and it's an opposing Uranus. And this, so as I was saying, one of the major themes of this year is the Uranus square Taurus, and this moon in Scorpio today is triggering this particular year-long influences, which are really the challenges for us to overcome and to walk through this period of incredible change and the current structures that humanity is facing. And Uranus is that sudden, unexpected periods of change and insight and intuition. And that is happening to us here on Earth because Taurus is very associated with Earth and the materials of the Earth and the abundance of the Earth. And so we are going to see major changes occurring. And this moon in Scorpio today is inspiring that energy. And so it's really important for us to flow those changes. Scorpio inspires us to do the work to uncover the hidden realms, the things that have been buried, the things that people want to keep secret. So it is a challenge where we're going to have to pull up our bootstraps and pull up our boots and put on our big boy boots and walk through these periods, because Scorpio does bring up fear, but it also brings up strength to overcome. Scorpio in the most positive influence is one that has the reservation and the quietness to dig deep down, to go into the places where most would not go, and to have the faith to take that action to transform our lives for the betterment of the whole. And so Scorpio is a very powerful sign, and so some of these lessons that we are experiencing, or these challenges or these roadblocks or these growing pains, are going to be very powerful. And it's experiencing this. And one thing that I'm seeing at the rise of every sun these next 7 days is that we have the sun in Aries, Venus in Aries, and Chiron in Aries. The sun is the spirit. It's our identity. It's our will. It's, the light that wakes us up every single day. And combined with Venus, it urges us to love ourselves, to love others, to put ourselves in other people's shoes. Because Chiron is the wounded healer. And so it brings attention to where our wounds are individually, and also brings, though, the key to healing. Aries, we're all going through, which, triggers going to be apparent through the experiences in our lives that are very oriented. And so we have to look for what's the gift. What is the gift in these experiences? And what is it that we're supposed to be courageous individually and as a whole? Definitely power in numbers. And love is the only thing. Venus in this stellium of energy on the ascendant, on the rising sun, as the sun rises every day, it's for us to raise that spark, that encouragement. It encourages bravery. So we have that at the rise of the sun. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with tomorrow's astrological horoscope universally. And as I'm recording outside, I'm being invited by Caterpillar to be a part of today's recording. So I'm going to go ahead now and talk 7:22 a.m. on the Eastern Coast. And again, we have Aries on the horizon. We're in that time of year where Aries is very strong energy, and that's that spark of movement, that spark of spirit, that spark of bravery. And again, we see Chiron and the sun, and we see Venus. Moon is 17 degrees of Scorpio, and it's squaring Jupiter. So the moon is our responses. From a very evolved standpoint, our responses with Scorpio are observed. It really inspires us to do the legwork, to identify the pearl and those emotions that we're having. And the way to Jupiter is not to quit. It's an inspiration to expand in identifying what's going to unify us and to fight for that and to do it in a way that considers the whole. And, it also, Aquarius is about freedom. And here in the United States, we're all meant to have the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and Jupiter is the truth. So we're going to see some experiences on Wednesday that are inspired by this square that happens throughout the morning, especially. And we also see, though, that Mars is going to be, and the north node of the moon are joining together. Mars is our actions, our activities. In Gemini, it inspires us to take action, to gather information, to look at both sides of things. And the north node is the direction we're all meant to go. And so the north node is what brings us the most joy. It's what brings us the most benefits. And Gemini is the socialite. It's the one that wants to communicate, wants to network. And Saturn today is trining, having a beautiful, harmonious conversation with the North Node in Mars. So this is a day that intellect is inspired. Actions that surround information, knowledge, communication, and looking at both sides of things is going to be very pronounced. And there's going to be some open doors to take movement or for movement to happen in areas where there's quality and what's best for everybody, and that there's going to be tools that we are available to us to do just this. Highlights around humanity and unifying and taking those actions which consider everybody, not just the one, considers everybody. So Wednesday is going to be a very powerful day for all of us. And notice I move forward that every single day at sunrise, the sunrise is 1 minute earlier. Our days are getting longer and longer between now and the summer equinox. And so today, April 1st, Fool's Day, sunrise is at exactly 7:21 a.m. and again we're seeing the Chiron on the rise, right on the horizon of the earth as the sun rises, inspiring us to understand where we are wounded and what the gift is in that wound for each and every one of us. And the sun's in Aries at 11 degrees, and Venus is tight next to the sun. So it encourages us to love ourselves primarily, but also to love the actions and the activities and to be inspired by this spark of life that is there for all of us at this time. And the moon now is at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a really great place for the moon to be because, again, that inspires. It's a fire sign and it inspires the truth. It inspires the laws of spirit, of our Creator, and also the laws of the world. And so we're on a search for truth. We're on a search for fairness and justice. And that moon is actually enshrined to Chiron in Aries, and the Sun and Venus, which means that there is a lot of support for forward movement in areas where we felt that we've had pain, and we're on a search for answers. And so that is very prominent on Thursday, April 1st. And also later in the day, and maybe the next day, I'll talk about that in a minute, we're going to see the moon squaring Neptune and Mercury in Pisces. And so, you know, there's a lot of sensitivity and emotion and depth that we're all experiencing right now in water. The element of water, which is sensitivity, emotion, visions, is very, very strong surrounding us all here, and it's inspiring us to, you know, look to spirit, to allow ourselves to feel things very deeply. But Saturn in Aquarius and Jupiter in Aquarius is inspiring us to detach and to look at the facts and consider what's best for everyone. So today, Thursday, April 1st, is one that inspires truth, justice, fairness, and equality from a very powerful standpoint. And I'm getting the caterpillars landing on me here. Can you see? So, okay. So coming back here to continue, I'm going to go on to Friday. And I really like being outside to record the weekly forecast because it's just so gorgeous here. I'm recording from the Villages where I live in Florida, which is a huge retirement community of about 150,000 people. And it's just an incredible, it's like Disneyland for mature people. And so anyway, you know, I'm very much in appreciation to be a part of such a great community of wise, mature people. So we're moving on now to Friday, April 2nd, and the moon is still in Sagittarius at 17 degrees, and sunrise is at 7:20 a.m. We've backed up one, and so we've got 1 minute of more light that's going to be with us throughout the day. And again, Chiron is on the horizon of the earth, the wounded healer, and the sun, which is the spirit, the spark of life, as it rises, and Venus. So we're waking up every day with this beautiful Venusian energy, which is inspiring us to be brave and to love ourselves enough and to have courage to move forward and explore these things. I mean, there's a lot of self-development that is surrounding us all here on earth, and some of the beautiful aspects that we see going on here is that the moon today, as we start the day early, is trining Venus and the sun in Chiron, and it's just beautiful, beautiful energy to start the day. But I would caution you to take your time. There's some real emotional growth that's happening today. Because the moon is squaring Mercury and squaring Neptune. So you know, this is some emotional growing pains around being able to make the necessary adjustments that are required in order to recognize what's real and what's not. And also, this is a signature. There's a mutable T-square that's showing up today. And the moon is opposite Mars and the north node of the moon in Gemini, and it's squaring Neptune and Mercury. And so this is a day where you might feel like there's a kaleidoscope of energy, and I give reference to that, and thanks for one of my clients, Chris Turner, who explained mutable energy in this way, that there's a lot going on. And so it's like a kaleidoscope of energy that we're being faced with. And so I would say this is a great day to do mindfulness exercises, meaning be present in the moment. Be present with each and every experience, because the energy is collectively a bit stressed. So the best thing that you could do today to support yourself is to be present in the moment and to recognize all the wonderful things that are present in your life, and to give thanks for those things, because stressed by circumstances, outside circumstances, or things that you see where people are suffering, where people are being taken advantage of, where there's deception going on. Ultimately, this is a great way. Gratitude and being present in the moment are wonderful exercises to bring you back to the very present moment and realize how very lucky we, each and every one of us, are to wake up every single day on this beautiful earth. And so now I'm going to go on to Saturday, April 3rd. And uh, today the moon has moved into the sign of Capricorn. So it's a lot more serious when the moon is in Capricorn. We're inclined to organize things. We're inclined to be responsible for what we're doing out in the world, and the structures and the things that we're involved in, and the responsibilities that we have. And sunrise today is at 7:19 a.m. And if you're somebody that wakes up and wants to see the sunrise, 7:19 a.m. If you're out there and you're looking up at the sky or at the sun, you're going to see the sunrise over the horizon. And you're also going to see Venus in that morning sky. And Chiron is an asteroid, and its orbit is around between Mars and Jupiter. And its energy influence is one that promotes healing to areas where we have pain. So one of the most beautiful things I think that we can see about today is that from a very practical, logical, emotional influence, the moon is going to trine Uranus. So there's going to be sparks of intuition that are available to each and every one of us. Intuition, I always say, is God's way, our Creator's way of speaking to us. It's that little voice that says do this or don't do that. So there's an open door this morning for this incredible energy to move very freely. There's this great, beautiful conversation happening between the moon and Uranus. One thing I would caution you this morning is the moon is going to square Chiron, and then it's going to square the sun and Venus today. And so that means that from an emotional standpoint, and from a spirit standpoint, and a loving standpoint, and a healing standpoint, this is a time where, oh my gosh, there's a caterpillar in my hair. Okay, so this is a time where you want to be very careful about getting caught up in fear. Fear of things that are really to do with past beliefs, and fear that's associated with moving forward. And I would encourage you to remember to not let fear be the guiding energy here, but to use great caution in any actions that you take, because Capricorn tends to be more limiting. It can be cold in a negative standpoint. It can be rigid. So take time to really think carefully before you take action on things, or before responding emotionally in relationships. To be cautious of the ego. Ego could really take charge here, and that this can trigger wounds, the things on a very personal basis that we've experienced in the past, that we're all realizing are really important for us to find a way to feel better. And so Saturday, April 3rd, is primarily a time where that we are looking at what we're responsible for, what we're not. And perhaps some of the challenges or the growing pains are today is to realize what you can take action on and what you can't, and to give up to a creator. Ask for some help here, and how you can overcome these things and not try to control, because Capricorn is a very controlling sign. So let's move on to Sunday now, and let me just get the caterpillars off of me. And so now let's look at Sunday, April 4th. And today, the moon is at 15 degrees of Capricorn. And it is, the sunrise is at 7:17 a.m. So we've got another minute of light that is available to us today. And this is Sunday, April 4th. And as we begin our day, we do have some pretty strong squares to Chiron, the Sun, and Venus that are on the horizon. So it may feel emotionally taxing to us, and we may want to take some time to take a look at the things that are the most important to us today and what we can actually do something about and what we can't. And prayer is a very powerful thing. And I think that this is a day where you might want to sort of itemize some of the things that you want to accomplish and realize that there might be some blocks in the road. There might be some challenges to overcome in relationships, mostly early in the morning. Earth node of the moon in Gemini. So there is this beautiful conversation that's going on, and this intellectual energy that supports us communicating and being fair that we are communicating with or talking. It is something that brings us together. And again, our direction is the North Node, where we're going to find the most benefits. And so I'm going to remind you about the powerful influence and support that's there for all of us. Our universe, our solar system is so intelligent beyond what we even can imagine. And so I think that a lot of people don't quite understand how by the world that surrounds us and how important it is that we give thanks for this great support on Earth that we're receiving. And to the North Node, powerful today, and urge you to realize the value in that, because the North Node is into the second house of this universal chart, which is about values. It's about prosperity. So there's a lot of prosperity in joining together with people of like minds. And this is Sunday. It's Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. It's a great day to celebrate the spiritual foundations and the sacrifices that Jesus died for, so that we could all have this freedom of will. And so I want to say happy Easter. I'm having a great group of friends. Story. I have a great aunt who's 98 years old, and she was married to my grandmother's Uncle Carl. And we're French, so we called him Monot Carl, means uncle. She's my tone in French. October. Ask for your prayers for her. She's a very sweet lady, and she always made my life and my siblings and my mother's life she surrounded us with love and lots of abundance, and Christmas and holidays were so special, and she made them special. She could never have children of her own. So, we were her grandchildren, and at this time I'm having to take some action to make sure that she's safe, because there's some real unjust things happening at this time. So I'd ask for your prayers surrounding this, because her name is Isabel Anna, and I don't want to say her last name just because of any reciprocation on that part, but I would ask for your prayers. And so I'm going to continue on, and everyone, happy Easter. It's going to be a beautiful day. And now I'm going to continue on with Monday's forecast. And Monday is April 5th, and the sun rises at 7:16 a.m. Another minute of light. I've got a green caterpillar on me. Okay, I guess they're loving this podcast. Anyway, today the sun, I guess, as I said earlier, the sun rises at 7:16 a.m. and we're starting our week out with the moon in void of course. It's at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and it just passed over Pluto. So from an emotional standpoint, we're all going through this incredible transformation, unconsciously, subconsciously, emotionally. And the moon's going to change signs this morning into the sign of Aquarius. But as we start out the morning, it's a great time for just taking time to finish things, complete things. Not a good time to start things. Void of course means nothing will come of it. So this is a great time for meditation, organization, completing things. And Chiron is beginning to separate now from the sun and from Venus. So there's been a lot that we've learned on this path over the course of this last week, with this Aries on the horizon of the earth as the sun rises every morning. And so you might take some time to reflect this morning on all the things that you have learned that has helped you to develop spiritually on this life journey during this past week. And to also know that, again, the North Node is still trining Saturn, so we are being supported by this sage-like energy, which is inspiring humanity to do what's best for everybody at this time. And the South Node of the moon is a really important topic, because the South Node brings up the things from the past that we've believed in, the things that we've been told that this is the way it is, religious, spiritual, and this is a time where we're meant to figure out what that truth is for us. And what does that truth look like? I was brought up Catholic, and I was taught that, if I did something wrong, that I'd be punished for that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that God and Creator loves us so much that we're not put in a place of judgment, as the Catholic religion suggests. And it's, it serves a purpose, but I don't, it was extremely destructive in my life. And I know that, and I'm not putting down the Catholic religion, I'm just talking about my personal experiences and what those beliefs did, because I'm a person that's very serious, and I take my responsibilities very seriously, and I'm the hardest judge of myself, more than anybody could possibly be. So what we believe in is what we will experience in our life. So if we believe something's true, that is the way that is going to unfold in our lives, until we understand what in our hearts is the truth. So, primarily today we are we're going to be later morning, we're going to have the moon move into Aquarius, and that's going to inspire us to uh, emotionally detach, to do what's best for everybody that we experience on our path, that we have experiences with on our path. It's a highly intellectual energy, and it's one that looks at unifying, and it brings up topics of freedom and, uh, also insight and intuition is really strong when the moon's in Aquarius. And today, the moon, as we start the morning, as the sun rises, the moon is going to be at 12 degrees of Aquarius, right next to Saturn. So there's this emotional inspiration, which is a lot more logical, practical. There's this sage-like wisdom for all of humanity. Emotionally, we're in this place where we're inspired to respond from a place of intellect, from a place of, experience. And so there's this great conversation that the moon is having with the North Node in Mars this morning. And so I think it's a great, anything that is an intellectual or intuition inspired is going to be very positive. And one thing that's happening today is the Mars is beginning to square Neptune. And so people may respond before thinking. They may take action before thinking with anger because of this Mars squaring Neptune. So I would caution you today to be careful about taking action without looking at both sides of things, of reacting and taking action on things that are based in anger. And you may see some things that do make you angry or upset today that have to do with abuse, that have to do with deception. Because when Neptune is in a squaring aspect or a conversation with any planet, now Mars is one that, can, this can influence warlike words, meaning that we take action and we use our verbal, in our conversations and people that we're interacting with. So the biggest caution here is to be careful of responding with anger. And you can use your words, you can use your knowledge, you can use your knowledge of, take some time to collect information which is going to be best for everybody on this day. And this is Tuesday, and the moon is going to be in Aquarius. And I do know that Mars is triggering some really foundational roots which are connected with us here in the United States. And this is going to trigger some political things in the political arena for the United States. And there is a possibility here that we're going to experience some things that are very uncomfortable. But it is where we're at. So I think the best advice I could give you is to be cautious about taking action on things that are based in anger, and take some time to discover what, to get some clarity on the things that are on your path before physically responding or verbally responding. So everyone, I want to say thank you for tuning in to Turn to the Stars, and I'm going to see you next Tuesday with the next week's forecast, starting at sunrise every day. And again, please, I'd love to hear your comments, your suggestions regarding the individual horoscopes for each sign on the new moon and the full moon. And again, you can reach me at Andrea@turntothestars.com. That's my email. Or you can just go on Turn to the Stars. I have a comment collector on my front page, and I'd love to hear from you. And also remind you about my Language of Astrology class that's starting on April 12th. I actually have a pretty good sized group already registered, and if you'd like to be a part of that, please go on my website, turntothestars.com, look under astrology classes, and you can register there. Again, everyone, thanks for all your continued support, and I wish you all well this week ahead. And always remember, turn to the stars, and you'll find your answers there. Thanks again. Have a great week.